Welcome to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer. And on today's show, we will be talking about whether or not the Rams have the pieces now that the initial 53-man roster is out, whether they have if they have the pieces to be a Super Bowl team. But we'll get into all that plus news and notes. But joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who Gilbert, I haven't done a proper introduction to you like in a while because people don't know that you're actually a writer. So let me just kind of give
Oh,
people a little bit of your background here. You were a beat reporter for the Las Vegas Raiders for a few years. You were also the beat reporter for the Rams in 2022 when they had their worst season. And now you're a NFL staff writer for Sports Illustrated MMQB. So for those that didn't know before, he is an NFL sports writer, and he covers the whole league. So we are very that he's with us and he is able to give us his information. So, Gilbert, how are you doing? We are one step closer to the NFL season. We get the initial 53-man roster from the Rams. How are you doing, sir?
well, first of all, let me know if my Wi-Fi is okay. I do have a background in covering the NFL, but I don't have a background in technology. So is my Wi-Fi okay? Because I never know
Yeah,
what
you're
this
doing
the thing
good.
here.
You're
Okay,
doing good.
okay. Then I can say thank you for that introduction. And I'm curious, Vic. Did somebody in the comments say why the hell is that guy with the hockey hat talking football? What the hell does he know?
No,
He
so
like,
yesterday when we were doing the interview with Adam Hill on Compas on the Beat, one of our commenters who's been a big fan lately, Brian Smith, did not know that you were an NFL writer.
oh,
I don't know if he
okay.
was kidding or not, or but I just thought it was funny, so I wanted to make that as a. And I've been kind of bad at introing us, so yeah, I wanted to make sure people knew all your background there.
I guess it's good to have an introduction, once a year, and this is the right time to do it before the regular
Right.
season. But I don't like to toot my own horn, but I will say this to show my beat reporter resume. Especially back in the Twitter heyday, there's always a guy or on X now that's like, "Hey man, be nice." Like, everybody lost a job today, and I'm like, "Who made
Yeah.
you that guy to tell
Yeah.
people what to do?" Like, I get it. Like, people are losing jobs, and don't be the like, what should I say, the scumbag who's making fun of people losing their jobs. But like, who
Yep.
made you the voice of reason here? And there's always somebody that says that, and then there's always that guy who's like, you know 17 days to the
Yep.
regular season in week one, or we're officially here and into week one. So I'm like, I don't need all the reminders, but that's just
This
me
is the last
being,
Sunday
yeah,
without
the last
football.
Sunday. I don't need the reminder for that one either, but I have been telling myself a lot, Victor, this is my last Sunday off until, after
Yep.
Super Bowl weekend until February. So when you think about it, it's a little scary. So I want to make sure that I enjoy this Labor Day
Same.
weekend. So I'm trying to get all my stories done before Friday so I can really kick back. And, but anyways, the whole point is like, that's kind of like the grumpy NFL writer in me. I'm like, there's always somebody that says, oh, please think of the children, think of the families. I'm like, 80% of the people here are going to bounce back. They're going to have a job, and it's just the way the league goes. And it's a lot of shuffling. My other annoyance too is like the final 53-man roster. And as Vic, to your credit, you got it right. It's initial 53-man roster. There's tweaking. People are gonna,
Oh yeah.
go to that team and that team. People are gonna get traded. It's tough, but it's life in the NFL. And yeah, don't be the guy who's trying to remind people about what to do in the NFL.
Yeah, and you know what you signed up for as an NFL player. This is, like they say, there's only 53 of these jobs, and so you don't take them for granted. And plus, we still have to hear about the practice squad. I did see our friend Gary Klein. He was saying that it was a bit quiet at Rams uh, training, I guess, today because they still haven't you still can't sign the practice squad guys there, so it's a little not as many people there now, especially when you go from 90 players. I thought that was kind of cool. I know we'll get into it, but I thought that was a good thing by the NFL. Remember, you used to have to go. You went from like 95 to 75, and then you cut down another 10. I like the fact that you wait till it allows them to earn a little bit more money, and get some experience. And I thought the way the Rams did, that'll be my biggest takeaway in terms of the in terms of the preseason for the Rams was that. Um, but no, Gilbert, your Wi-Fi is doing good, and I can hear you nice, very well. So we're ready to go. We'll get into it unless you want to add anything else. We'll get into Rams news and notes as we talked a news and notes segment, and then we'll get into what the 53-man roster and kind of give our takeaways.
Yeah, before I let you do your thing, I'll say something positive. I do enjoy that we stopped the whole trimming the roster from 90 to 75 to 60 to whatever. Like, just have one big day where you make all the transactions. If you want to get a jump on it early after your preseason finale, so be it. Because a lot of these preseason games end Saturday, giving you a few days until Tuesday. That's fine too. But yeah, you're right. Give all these players all the reps that they can get, because we don't need to get into the nitty gritty. Every time the CBA comes up, the contract for the players unions and the owners, it's always kind of give and take. And for whatever reason, the players always give up more practice time. And they're like, they'll say, in return, we'll play that extra game or whatever you want to do, owners. But practice time is valuable to get these players ready. They're not getting that anymore. It's not like the old days. I've been watching the freaking Jerry Jones documentary on Netflix, where Jimmy Johnson was working the players to death out there, and it doesn't happen. I'm not saying go to that extent, but yeah, making sure players get 3 games in the preseason instead of being cut before whatever, a month ago or 2 weeks ago, it's better, and it should help out. It doesn't really balance out, Vic, but these players, especially the offensive linemen, they need more repetitions, and unfortunately, they're not getting that in practice anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw Lorenzo Neal talking about how they used to do like a round robin. They used to do what were they called? Joint practices where you went up against 3 different teams in a day. So I mean,
That's wild.
the days have changed, Gilbert. We're in a new era where players want to get that rest, and hey, they've negotiated for it. So that's where we're at. All right, Gilbert. Our engagement question of the day. Now that we have the initial 53-man roster, we want to know, do the Rams have a Super Bowl roster? What do they need to do? Do they need to add some players here to get to that level? Let us know in the comments what you guys think in terms of, how you're looking at this roster, where they can improve, where could they perhaps make some trades, look to trade, or even look in the waiver wire. So please let us know. Do the Rams have a Super Bowl roster?
Yeah, let us know. I see Willie Bowen and Daniel Calderon in the chat getting it going there. So Willie Bowen says, "I love the LA Rams." Shout out to you, Willie. So yeah, get the chat going there. Let us know your thoughts on this initial 53-man roster that will change several times over the course of the season. But let us know for your initial thoughts here. Daniel says, "Pooh getting cut is Reader's fault. Everything is Reader's fault." Damn, I hate that Reader being Troy Reader, and that one did surprise me. We're gonna get into it, but when you think about it, not too much, because I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people always expect every draft pick of a certain team to hit, and fans are always like, "Yeah, that seventh round pick is going to be a stud," and it's like, oh, maybe not really, but we'll get into a little more. He was a 5th round pick at linebacker, and if he wasn't, doing his part in practices, and so be it. But who knows? We'll debate about Trail Reader as well.
Yeah, and then last one here, we'll get into also his question about he says, why do we have so many linemen? We'll get into that because I even have a question about that too, Gilbert. So
Mhm.
that's where that was one of the ones I got wrong in terms of the projection for the 53-man roster. But let's get to the Rams news and notes segment plus injury report. Um, I'll start off here with Rams left tackle Alaric Jackson practiced for the first time on Monday. He made the initial roster. It doesn't sound like he's going to go on IR. So everything Adam kind of told us kind of came through here. We're just kind of wait and see now. We'll see how things go the next 2 weeks, and whether or not he's ready to go. I think that was part of the reason why we saw 10 linemen make the roster, just in case he's not ready. Maybe they'll give him a week or two rather than put him on IR and have him miss 4 games instead of having to miss 1 or 2 games, Gilbert.
Yeah, so just double check. He made the roster. He's not on IR, right? He's
Yes.
activated right now,
Yes.
technically. Okay. Yeah, it does go back to what you mentioned to Adam telling us last week that it's a little tough because the timeline is September and you got to make the decision in August 26th, that being today. So I always felt like they're going to keep him on the roster because you don't want to miss 4 games. And I remember I was reminding people in the last show they went 0-2 without Alaric Jackson. So he's a very important piece to the puzzle here, and we're asking people here the question: is this Rams roster a Super Bowl contender? Is it worthy to compete with the Lions and the Eagles and the Buccaneers? The Buccaneers are getting a lot of hype in the NFC, but to me, if they don't have Jackson healthy, it could just start a domino effect of O-line problems. So I think this is the right move. Get a little more information, and yeah, if you have to put him on IR, you do have 10 guys or 9, not counting Jackson, available. That's why you kind of added a little more numbers that way. And maybe again, we were talking about on the other show, when you have to have more players than you want at a certain position, you got to make the numbers even out. So you take away like a Ronnie Rivers or a Poole Paul Jr. You got to make the numbers work here. And to the Rams, and I agree to their thinking here, they wanted more numbers on the offensive line. And also, I think Vic, to your credit, you got the 6 wide receivers correct. I thought that was a little high there for a team that has issues in other areas, but they made it work. So this is kind of the part of the strategizing where people, and that's why I said there's always going to be a couple surprises because they need to make the math work. If the math ain't mathing, then GMs start to like freak out and they make some moves that they'd rather not make, but you got to do it to make the numbers work. So they got their wide receivers, they got their extra linemen. Unfortunately, that hurt them in other areas too.
Yeah, and I mean, I just you have to make you have to make sure he's ready to go, and this kind of gives him a little bit of time here, and we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks. I think he now that the Stafford news has kind of been put to the back pedal. You're able to now concentrate on Alaric Jackson, as you said. Now he becomes the biggest story in terms of injury and when he comes back. So he's someone to kind of monitor the next 2 weeks and whether or not he's ready to go for week 1. As I said, I just think that the reason you keep the 10 is to kind of give him a couple weeks. If he's not ready week 1, then at least it gives you a chance to have him ready to go for week 2 or week 3. So we'll see. Now talking about another lineman, the Rams trade offensive lineman TK Levinston to the Browns for a 7th round pick. He was someone I had making the team. And I guess he was the odd man out in the end, and they were able to get something for him, Gilbert.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I would say the odd man out. Like if they got some value for him, they probably thought he can make our roster, but if someone's gonna give us a 7th round pick, then so be it. We'll take him. So maybe and that create an opportunity for somebody else that doesn't have that type of value on the open market. So there are a lot of moves happen and transactions happens because you're trying to search who's gonna get cut, who doesn't need this player, or who doesn't like who had like. I go back to the Vele trade from the Broncos, a wide receiver. Like I'm not
Right.
surprised about that one because they had too many wide receivers. Like he wasn't a star player, but he's not gonna get the snap. So you call and you ask, hey, can this guy be on the trading block for you because you have too many wide receivers? So I'm sure maybe the Browns are saying we need help at lineman, but this guy here is decent. We see they just saw each other in the preseason finale, so they probably thought, hey, what do you want for him? We'll give you a 7th round pick. All right, why not? I didn't expect it. So a lot of these phone calls come out of nowhere because teams are doing due diligences on their roster, and we need more help here. We saw this guy in preseason. They're trusting their pro scouts, and just the way it is. But like the Broncos had to accept that offer. There's been a few, I guess. I don't know if I buy the Browns thinking of keeping 4 quarterbacks, but they saw the Raiders were hurting it with the backup quarterback. They traded Kenny Pickett, so that was a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes the last few days here.
Yeah. And I mean, just the other thing, Les Need was in Cleveland, so he probably had a conversation with their GM. So it makes sense that they would make a trade with the Browns, who they were the last team they saw. So a lot of it has to do with team, either whether it's a joint practice, as you said, or even a preseason game. These GMs get together and they have a little conversation, and that's how it goes. Moving on here, Gilbert McVay on Stafford said, "quote I can't see into the future, but if you look at what the last week has entailed, feel really good. There's nothing that would lead me to believe, unless we have an unforeseen setback, that he's going to be not going to be ready to roll against the Texans." So all signs point to Matthew Stafford being ready to go for Week 1, which I mean, it's funny how things change in the NFL, and how I guess things get blown out of proportion. But when you see, like as we talked about with Adam, when you see a van, or whatever you want to call it, an automobile outside of a practice, you kind of have to start questioning whether or not things are worse than they should be. But it sounds like he's going to be ready to go, Gilbert.
Yeah, it's funny how after that chamber incident, and a week goes by, and people were freaking out. I even saw a lot of people who are very connected starting to freak out, like, oh man, maybe we should worry about Stafford. And then a week later, Stafford practices, and now it's getting to the point where the beat reporters were saying, "Do we have to tweet out every day that Stafford's participating?" Like you're getting to the point where, like, don't even have to say that. If he's not participating, then that's when you tweet. But
Yeah.
he's been there the last 6, 7 practices. I lost track. So that's a very good sign. The Rams are definitely trending in the right direction. Like there's nothing to see here. There's no problem. And but I'll say this. When I was doing my predictions, for SI, which will come out the day after Labor Day, Tuesday, when, thinking about predictions for our 5th annual Carne Asada on Compas on the Beat,
Yes.
where we're going to have all our predictions there as well. I just told myself, treat it like the Rams are going to have a healthy Stafford, and then you make your pick, because you don't want to be thinking like, crap, why did I do this when Stafford's healthy and I assumed he's going to be hurt? So I think a lot of people might be eating their words on that one. But even with a healthy Stafford, it's not a given they're going to have a cakewalk here to the NFC West title. But we are going to discuss it for the next couple of weeks here, because it seems like a very competitive division, and Stafford being healthy makes for good drama, good TV, and you want to have all 4 teams at their best here. So I want to see how this division plays out, but we'll talk about that a little more probably next week's shows and the Cardinals episode too.
Yeah, make sure you check in to the comment that you just said. Uh Jorge was asking, do you guys think the Seahawks will compete, or they're gonna be mid? Jorge, make sure you check out the carne asada. We will be talking about that. Can't wait for that. But
Shout out to you, Jorge.
Daniel Calderon Contreras says, I was surprised Presley was also cut. He was somebody the Rams social media was hyping up. So
Yeah.
yes, there was a surprise there from a lot of people. And old friend here, Joaquin Quijada, says, "Welcome back, fellas. Go Rams." So it's good to kind of start seeing a lot of the people filter back in now that football season's back.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool
Do
to
we have
see.
Daniel on 2 different YouTube accounts? Is that what it is? With
I
the
don't
extra
know.
last name there?
Maybe we have maybe that's his burner account. Who knows?
Yeah,
But
yeah. Or I don't know. Maybe it's Daniel Jr. A lot we Latinos like to have the same names,
yep.
and even in our group, Dan and Diego, he's like the 4th in his family has the same
Yep.
name. So very
That's why
popular
they do
name.
the little Daniel, and then you have Dan and
Little
Dago,
Daniel,
and
medium Daniel, big Dan, Dan and Diego, Daniel Calderon. It's a lot of Dans out here.
yeah. Before we move on, we have our friend Jorge Rodriguez here. Says, "Nah, bro. Shout out to you, and shout out to Vic." So, hey, thank you, Jorge, for checking us out. Even though you're a Chargers fan, so we appreciate the love. And then shout out Jeff Miller as well. Yeah, shout
Yeah,
out
shout
your
out to
Jeff
Jeff
Miller.
Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, trying to
I wonder how
see if I
he's
got
doing.
I'm trying to see if we got through everything. I think that's it on the news and notes, Gilbert. But continue to give us your comments here, and we'll get to yours as well, Joaquin. We'll get into it when we talk about the linebackers there. But Gilbert, just your takeaways from the initial Rams initial 53-man roster.
Yeah.
Any takeaways? What can you start off, and then we'll kind of break this down position by position.
You know what? Put up Joaquin's comment because he set
Yeah.
me up here, and I think this might be the one of the biggest takeaways here. Joaquin says Dolak as an undrafted free agent beating out a fifth round pick speaks volumes, which I agree. Troy Reader over Poole strictly on contract values doesn't sit well with me. Hopefully, it doesn't bite us later. And I'm gonna focus on the first part here, Joaquin, because you know, I think it was more about that, because it's hard to replace experience. It's hard to replace a player you're familiar with. It's hard to replace a guy who was valuable on special teams, and we talked about in the last show. And I think Troy Reader checks out all the boxes, being familiar with your coaching staff, being available for special teams. But I think you should. I hope I'm right. You should separate Troy Reader, the linebacker, and Troy Reader, the special teamer. Like I think he might be focused on that. And there was a couple players who got cut. I was surprised who were supposed to be there for special team purposes. But that's why you keep a guy like Troy Reader. Now, to me, I focus on Dolak, who might play more inside linebacker. And then you got the emergence of Nate Landman, who I think is starting to become a nice free agent signing for them. I'm not saying to the point of Zach Vaughn with the Eagles, but he's starting to become a player who's been experienced in the NFL. Got to work with Raheem Morris last year, who's coming into a familiar scheme with Chris Shula. So maybe they didn't factor that into they didn't factor into the account, when you draft a Poole Paul or Chris Paul Jr. And then you have the Omar Speights second year improvement. Like you're not sure if this guy's going to do anything. I forget, Vic. He was undrafted, right? Or was he?
Yes, so
He was,
that was going to be part of my takeaway.
yeah. So you
But
can't
yes,
commit. You can't commit to a
all
guy
the
being.
inside linebackers are undrafted free agents, all of
There you
them.
go. So this is the way the Rams operate. And you don't want to
Yep.
guarantee a spot to an Omar Speights who wasn't drafted. It's gonna be the same thing if Dolak does something next year. Like, do it again. Do it again for year two. If not, we'll replace you with a cheaper veteran like a Nate Landman or Troy Reader, who they brought back a few times. I lost track on that. But to me, the surprise was Dolak, and it's kind of like, all right, we're okay with going with this route because also you got to take into account you need to have more numbers at offensive line. You also like a lot of receivers, and to the credit to Daniel bringing up Presley, I didn't think he's going to make the roster because there were just too many wide receivers. Seven is an insane amount of number of wide receivers. I think there was one year they did do. I think it was a year I was there, 2022.
Yeah,
But
Lance
that's just too many
McCutcheon
wide
year.
receivers. Yeah, that was a McCutcheon year.
Yep.
So I think that's part of it. Surprises happen, and I think that's a good problem to have. Dolak, doing that. I'm not sure if he's going to play. It was same thing last year with Omar Speights. Is he going to play? He ended up playing a whole lot. So, you need to have guys. If you're going to be cheap at a position, you need to find gems, and hopefully for the Rams' sake, they found one there. But I think having Nate Landman and then feel good about Omar Speights, you have two guys now for a position you don't really care about. So when you're making the numbers, you just go with the best player available, and then the Rams are a spoiled team because everybody thinks their fifth round pick is gonna blow up. Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, like not every fifth round pick is gonna do well. Like to me,
Yeah.
from the even to I was gonna say fifth round, but even to the fourth round to the seventh round, these players could be cut as rookies. To me, you're pretty much a lock here. 1, 2, 3, maybe fourth round, but fifth, sixth, seven, you better earn it in camp. And to me, that's to me just tells me he didn't earn it. And the thing that fans get in trouble with, they just assume every player drafted is going to hit the ground running, especially a team like the Rams when they find gems throughout the draft. So to me, I go and focus on Dolak being the guy who beat him out. So shout out to Joaquin for that comment.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of going off too, like we've talked about this. Like the Rams have the cheapest in terms of value, in terms of the money in of all the defenses around the league. So they don't spend a lot of money on their defense, and eventually they will. They'll pay, Kobe Turner, they'll pay Jared Verse, they'll pay Brandon Fisk. Like they'll pay those guys, but you have to flash in order for them to pay you, because otherwise, as we just mentioned, if you look at their linebackers, it's Troy Reader, Nate Landman, Sean Dolak, and Omar Speights, all guys who weren't drafted at all. And we continue to see the devaluing of the linebacker position, Gilbert. Whether you keep seeing dudes, who, and you brought up Zach Vaughn, but it's happened even before where you see a linebacker who wasn't used as much. They go and they get signed by another team, and then they blow up there. And so that's just the way the league is doing it. They're trying to be cost effective because they want to spend. And on the other side too, Gilbert, you have an offense who's one of the most expensive in the league in the on the offensive side for the Rams. So you kind of have to decide where you want to spend your money. And the Rams have said, hey, we're going to spend the majority of our money on offense, and we're going to build our defense through the draft and pay the ones that kind of have flash. And we're kind of seeing now. In terms of my takeaway here, Gilbert, I'm kind of surprised to what, and I wanted to go back here and mention this comment, and Daniel Calderon says, why do we have so many D linemen? And that caught me by surprise. And I'm not just saying that because I only had how many defensive linemen did I only had five. I had Kobe Turner, Brandon Fisk, Puna Ford, Tyler Davis, and Ty Hamilton. All those guys made it, of course. But I thought I was surprised by Deshaun Johnson and Laurel Murchison. I'm like, am I missing something? Are those two guys, the last two that I just mentioned, are they more for run support? Are
Yeah.
they trying to make sure that the other guys aren't playing as many snaps so they can keep them fresh? So that was my whole thought process when I saw those two extra guys make the team, Gilbert.
Yeah, if you don't have elite linebackers who are flying all over the place, like, and you're very, I don't want to say weak, but you're thin at inside linebacker. So the whole point of a linebacker, especially the ones that are not like on the Fred Warner, Roquan Smith level,
Right,
or you better be good at cleaning up the mistakes that happen in the interior of the defensive line. They call it the second level of the defense. If you get past that, you're probably looking at what at a positive game from the running game, maybe flirting with a first down. So you better stop them before they get to the chains there, or which I know we're going to the cameras now but this,
right.
the chains will still be out there. But if you're pretty much the guy who says, okay, you're not gonna go past 5 yards here. We're gonna try to minimize the damage. So when you don't feel too confident in your inside linebackers who are all undrafted free agents, but I'm not saying they can't be the second line of defense here, but you rather have more stability with the first line. You want to have
Right.
guys like, and part of it too is like I've been harping on Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner to do better in the run defense. They're great pass rushers, but you also don't want them to think too much, right? You want them to do what they do best, go after the quarterback and create havoc in the trenches. So if you have more bodies that can help you be specialists there, I'm not gonna excuse the poor run defense, but they can help out. Maybe they do improve in that area and you're fine. But just in case they're focused too much on being a pass rusher, you bring in the other guys like Tyler Davis, Puna Ford, and the extra guys that they kept on the roster to help out with the run defense, because that's a big problem. So I think to them it's more like, let's have more bodies here on the first line of defense than the second, and just hope that we get one or two guys that are just good enough. Because a lot of times, Vic, as you know, they don't even play two inside linebackers. They play one, and
No.
they have a bunch. They have a bunch of safeties that they like.
Yep.
You got linebackers who are safeties / hybrid linebackers. So they're they if they feel they have two guys who are good enough in base defense and maybe one guy to help out in case one guy gets hurt. That's just the way the Rams are going to do it. So to them, they rather have more bodies at defensive tackle. So I get that standpoint.
Yeah, and I mean it makes sense. And Chris Shula, I mean he made it work last year, and that's the other thing. We're kind of figuring out how different he is as opposed to Raheem Morris with his defense and what he likes, and maybe that's why they're keeping certain guys than what we initially thought they would because of that. As you said, maybe they want to focus more on the defensive line because that's where they feel like, hey, if as Adam said, if we can use our pressure to kind of alleviate, or help out our back seven, then we're gonna do that, whether it is with five down linemen, or even some of the linebackers, as you said, or even playing some of those safeties a little closer to the line as well. So I agree with you. You're 100% right there. And like I said, we're also kind of learning what Chris Shula likes to do, and so we're starting to see him getting the type of players that he wants. And I think it started with Nate Landman coming over as a free agent. I'm sure not a lot of people paid attention to that signing, but that goes to show you that once you get into training camp and then you go through the preseason, those reps are very valuable, and you get to see the difference in how you can connect with that team. And as we said, we're not comparing Nate Landman to Zach Vaughn and what happened, but that's how you are able to make an impact on a team, and how you can go from being a fringe playoff team to a Super Bowl contender when those players, can connect with that defense. And so, but I still have my questions, and we'll get to it, Gilbert, because but in terms of how this roster is being put together, and it's starting to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I think it was Chris Shula that said they view Tyler Davis as a fourth starter in terms of the interior defensive line. So that gets me thinking, like they're going to have some six-man fronts here, and even the edge rusher position is a little light. They got four edge rushers, so you're set with Jared Verse, and you're set with Byron Young. So I think it's kind of like the wide receiver aspect. Like a lot of times it's hard to build a very balanced NFL roster, but if you could, dominate in a few areas and just overwhelm teams in certain aspects, like you have a lot of elite pass catchers, tight ends, wide receivers from the offensive standpoint. And in defensive, you have a lot of good pass rushers. They might play defensive tackle, they might play outside linebacker, they might play defensive back. But if you keep having the best pass rushers on the field, more times than not, that's going to be successful to your team in various ways. So I would not be surprised if there's a couple of times they don't play any inside linebacker. It's a six-man front with those four defensive tackles, the two edge rushers, and then some combination of five defensive backs where maybe you get three safeties and you get two cornerbacks. But you play the numbers, and they like their safeties, they like their defensive linemen. So I'm okay with it. But when you run into the teams that specialize in running the football, like the Eagles, you better have a backup plan or a different combination. And that's why you keep guys like Landman and Spades and maybe Dolak to help you. That's why you rather have a couple guys just to be safe. But for the most part, I don't see these guys having a lot of snaps on the field anyways when you're playing certain teams.
Yeah, and we've seen, with now, with how the offenses have kind of evolved. you know, you're also playing mind games while you're out there, and I like, kind of like what Joaquin said here. He says Lake and Wallace alternating the star will pay dividends in the over health aspect for a long season. So that also has a lot to do with it. And then the other point here that he makes is that Forbes, being a former first round talent, basically being picked up by Snead and McVay, most underrated signing, especially the league sleeping on the Rams secondary. So I mean, we'll see. I still have my questions with that secondary, but the fact that they are using their defensive line, and their outside linebackers to be able to get to the quarterback to kind of help them out. I think it's a wise move. Now we got to see whether or not, and they get a test right away, Gilbert, because I understand, like, I know a lot of people are saying, well, the Texans have a terrible offensive line, and like I said, we haven't seen it. We don't know, because every season, just because they look terrible. We just saw Kenyon Green get cut by the Eagles, so it tells you that the Texans saw that he was terrible and they got rid of him. So maybe they've upgraded somehow. We just don't know. And the other thing too that I'm kind of interested in that game, and we'll break it down when we get to it next week. But you have a former Rams coach who's now the offensive coordinator there, and how he knows Chris Shula, and so there's going to be some good back and forth between the two of them, kind of seeing who, playing chess and see who can come out on top. So I'm looking forward to that, and getting to talk to you about that next week.
Yeah, every team has their own philosophy. Like the Eagles don't waste time. If you're not doing your job, and I don't like, they're like, we don't. Howard Roseman doesn't care that he paid you. He doesn't care that he traded for you. You're gonna be cut in a week or two because he's good at like cutting his losses early than rather too late. That's his
Yeah,
philosophy. Leslie's philosophy and Sean McVay is focus on skill players, focus on pass rushers. We'll be cheap in other areas. We have the right quarterback. We'll be fine, and that
yeah.
works to an extent. It's all about matchups, and be ready to adjust when you get to that matchup that might hurt you a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, they have a plan, and they've since that 2022 season, they steadily have been making, progress, and now they're trying to make that jump to being a Super Bowl contender and perhaps winning the Super Bowl. So shout out to them. They know what they're doing. All right, Gilbert, let's spend the last couple minutes here kind of just going over this roster. We'll go quickly kind of what we got right and what we got wrong here. The quarterbacks, we called it, Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, Stetson Bennett. You got the three guys there. Where we messed up here was with the running backs. You said that you thought they'd keep three running backs. You were right. I kind of added one just in case anything happened to them. But yeah, Ronnie Rivers got cut, and so did I forget the other kid's name. But maybe they bring two of those running backs back on the practice squad.
Yeah, those are guys also you could probably get back, like you mentioned, on the practice squad. You waive them and you hope you'll get them. They're familiar with the team. Those are ones that I felt like, I don't, because I think they're going to go heavily with the big three, and then
They'll shred
again,
it.
it's a numbers game, and it felt like Ronnie Rivers could help with special teams, but also he's one you could maybe stash.
Yep.
Who would get picked up more, Troy Reader or Ronnie Rivers? I don't know. Maybe Troy Reader because he plays a position that people need a little help on sometimes. But yeah, that was their choice, and I think that I would not be surprised if it comes back on the roster in like a day or two.
Yep. Moving on here to the wide receivers, six, Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua, Jordan Whittington, Canetta Munfield, Tutu Adwell, Xavier Smith. We kind of saw that. And then uh, Joaquin says 10 linemen. Yep, you got that right. We said Alaric Jackson, Steve Avila, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dodson, Rob Havenside, Warren McClendon Jr., Bo Limmer, Dustin Diedich, David Quisenberry, and DJ Humphrey. So we had the same thing. I just thought Alaric Jackson would probably start on IR, and then I thought TK Levinson would make the team. They trade him, and then like we talked about to open the show, Alaric Jackson. It sounds like they didn't want to waste the IR spot, so they're going to give him a little bit of time to get ready for the season, and he's going to open the season with the team.
Yeah, I thought that was the right move. Is wait and see with Alaric Jackson. Build the depth there. You don't want to mess around and not have guys ready. You don't want to mess around and have guys try out or fly from whatever Baltimore to LA. You want to have enough bodies to go in case injuries occur. So uh, that's a good call by you in terms of the numbers. Having 10, and that's exactly what they did there. So but I just didn't see them putting Jackson in IR because the 4 games is like I'm sure the Rams are tired of starting behind, and you need to have Jackson out there, even if it's like 3 games instead of 4. That's better than having the whole stint on IR.
Yeah, and Joaquin, as he says, is there a chance Jackson doesn't start until week 3? He hasn't practiced. He's just started practicing on Monday. You're gonna have
Yeah.
he needs to make sure that he gets a little bit of run here. I don't know how much time he needs to get ready. I know I did hear McVay say that he was he looked great. He was moving around really good. So, but it's also about building that callus, Gilbert. Like you need to get it. My biggest worry, and I'll be honest here. I'll bring in the Chargers here. Give him time to get ready because we saw what happened with Rashawn Slater. If you don't give him enough time and you try to rush him and you try to put too much on him right away, you could potentially lose him for the season with a bad injury. So just make sure you take your time and make sure he's ready to go, Gilbert.
Yeah, no, definitely. You don't want that to occur. That was very unfortunate for the Chargers to lose Rashawn Slater. Uh, I'm not sure how much that's relatable from the holdout to practicing, but it can't help. So you want to make sure you have a good ramp up period. Same thing with Micah Parsons, who's holding out, but the Cowboys keep thinking he's gonna come back, but you have a Thursday night game to open the season. Like, good luck trying to get that guy ready. So everybody needs a plan to be ramped up. So, you don't want to rush Jackson. So he has to miss 1 game. So be it. It's better than the whole season. It's just it sucks that the first game is Houston that has a very dominant pass rush and Will Anderson Jr. and Daniel Hunter.
And that sets me up for my next thing, Gilbert, because the tight ends, four of them stayed. You got Tyler Higbee, Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen, and Terrence Ferguson. And then that also, here, let me put this back here. That also kind of sets up this here from um, Joaquin says a lot of 12 personnel with with keeping four tight ends, and I think that's going to be huge. If you're not gonna have Alaric Jackson for the first couple games, you are gonna see, and even Les Need came out and talked about that they've been talking about using 12 personnel a lot more. I still want to see it before I believe it, Gilbert. I'll say that much.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna be quick to say they're gonna use more 12 personnel. Maybe they will if Jackson's out on the field because you can have Ferguson or Higby, I guess, and Parkinson to help out with the blocking. You're fine with Puka and Devontae, and you know, watching the Rams practice this summer, they're gonna have a. I think they're gonna really rely on the slow game. You don't have a lot of burners, and I'm tired of hearing about Tutu out. Well, people know that on the show here, but I could definitely see where they go away from the third wide receiver. But then you start thinking like, well, then why keep six wide receivers? Like I think Sean McVay is going to have a hard time going away from his bread and butter.
Yep.
And the positive takeaway here of why I'm leaning to maybe not as much 12 personnel, I watched Terrence Ferguson in the preseason, and he had a great catch. Like the guy that was drafted to be an impactful pass catcher showed up in Cleveland, and that 33-yard sideline catch was pretty impressive. You could tell the quarterbacks wanted to get him involved. So, what if I'm not saying it's going to happen? What if Ferguson hits the ground running and he's able to do what Higbee has done for many years: catch, block, and not be not disrupt the 11 personnel. So keep him on there, and then I guess have Tutu Atwell as your third wide receiver, wherever you want, Sean McVay. But to me, what if Ferguson was added to do everything? He's
Yep.
not a first round pick, but he's a second round pick, and he was their first pick this year. And we've heard all the rumors about the Rams wanting Brock Bowers. Like you could tell Sean McVay wants a very impactful tight end. Now, when I say impactful, does that mean to stay on the field at all times to do what you do best, and that's the 11 personnel? But sometimes you got to change things to keep up with the pace of the NFL, and maybe he's leaning more to the 12 personnel. I'm just not sure he's going to do it because one, I saw Ferguson ball out in a preseason game. Maybe he's capable of doing everything right away to play 11 personnel, or maybe he's not ready. Have him split time between Higbee and Ferguson, and then you have Parkinson to help out as a blocking tight end. And then I saw a comment, I forget who it was, but I'm a little surprised Davis Allen made it to having
Yep.
four tight ends, but he does have potential as a pass catcher as well.
Yeah, and kind of to your point, I did hear part of that as well with Les Need, where he was talking about um why they want to use a little Ferguson a lot more this season than we would have probably seen from a rookie. But and then that is because they kind of want to keep Tyler Higbee fresh. So to your point, I think you will see Ferguson playing in that 11 personnel more than we will see Tyler Higbee, just because they want Terrence Ferguson to get a lot of that run to kind of make sure that Tyler Higbee is fresh for the postseason, as in December and January. So, and then I like what Joaquin said here, and I was gonna kind of say that as well. I think we'll see a lot of running, but as you said, you know, McVay, especially down in the red zone, he is so hard headed that he's gonna throw the ball no matter what. So Williams will continue, as Joaquin says, Williams will continue to be the workhorse to alleviate stress on Stafford's back. Agree, yeah, but I think part of it too, should Chong McVay, he's a pass first guy, and we've seen it in the past as well. So we'll see what happened. And then Willie Bowen wanted to know if Jordan Whittington's still on the Rams. Yep, he's still on there as well. So he didn't,
He
as
made it.
as Joaquin said, he didn't play much, but um, he didn't play much in preseason, but that was on purpose. They know what they have in Jordan Whittington, and he's another guy that's going to play a lot of special teams, Gilbert. So you
Yeah.
kind of want to save him there. One more here from Jesse Bonilla, who we're starting to see these names again, so it's awesome to see Stafford looking clean, MVP season brewing up. So here we go.
What's up,
Everybody's
Jesse?
uh, huh? Oh, what's
I
up,
said, what's
Jesse?
up?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's
Jesse
up,
Bonilla.
Jesse? All right, let me go pretty fast here. We talked about the defensive line already, getting 7 players already. We only had 5: Deshaun Johnson and Laurel Murchison. We talked about the inside linebackers. We said why Troy Reader, Nate Landman, and Sean Dolak made it. We had Chris Paul Jr. making it. That didn't happen. We talked about that already as well. We talked about the inside linebackers. Sorry, the outside linebackers, you kind of touched on it. Jared Verse, Byron Young, Josiah Stewart, the rookie, and Nick Hampton. I was surprised by Nick Hampton over Brennan Jackson, but hey, as you talked about, Gilbert, they're not afraid to let go of draft picks from the last couple years. They're gonna go with the best players that at that position, and they're gonna move on, even if they spend a late round pick on a guy. So is there anything else you want to add there with what I just with them cutting Brennan Jackson and what was his name, Chris Paul Jr.?
Yeah, I'll be quick with this comment. I think a lot of times people get caught up on like, oh, this player won't make it past waivers. Like, why would they cut him? Like, people forget the fact that now that the rosters are set and you have no space for an extra player, if you're gonna go claim somebody, you gotta cut somebody, and I don't think a lot of
Yep.
teams are willing to do that. So maybe it's an opportunity for some of these guys to come back, like Jackson.
Yep. Just wanted to get this comment as well from Jesse. He says, "What up? Keep the good work up." So it's good to hear from people. It's been a minute. I know it's been a long off season. The Rams kind of keep things quiet until we got to the whole Matthew Stafford stuff. So it's good to start hearing back from people, and we're almost done, and we'll kind of give you guys the schedule going forward. We'll be here every week. We'll have a preview and a post game show, but we'll get into that a little bit later as we finish up here. Lastly, the safeties: Cam Curl, Cam Kitchens, Quinn Lake, and Jalen McCullough. We kind of knew those were they were set there. We talked about as well, Gilbert, about how they're going to impact this defense and how important they're going to be, being able to move them around. And then with the cornerbacks, I was kind of surprised I got this one right, just because after talking to Adam and then seeing his projected, I was like, oh, maybe Ingo was gonna make the team, but it wasn't the case. So Kilo Witherspoon, Darius Williams, Kobe Durant, Josh Wallace, Emmanuel Force Jr. So they keep 5 cornerbacks, Gilbert.
Yeah, this is the biggest concern on the roster for me. I don't think that they have a lot of talent at cornerback, but they do make up for that with the safeties. I like their safety rotation. The 2 cams there, Quentin Lake, and then obviously I love the defensive front that they have. But man, we'll see what they do here. I know the Texans with CJ Stroud, they have some of their issues, but they did load up on wide receivers in the draft, so they're going to get tested not by an experienced receiving course, but one that has potential but very young, and maybe that's a kind of a good game to get situated. But to me, this is the one I'm gonna keep my eye on for the rest of the year because I don't like the names on that cornerback list there.
Yeah, and I mean, Darius Williams, hopefully he stays healthy. I think I want to see Kobe Durant take the next step, and we'll see Emmanuel Forbes Jr. He was a guy that had a lot of interceptions, a lot of
Yeah,
pick sixes when he was in college, but it hasn't transferred to the NFL, and hopefully he was able to. I thought, I forget who it was. I'm trying to remember. I was listening to somebody. I want to say it was Jordan Rodriguez. But it was somebody who was talking about how they saw him wearing long sleeves, and that usually means that when you're wearing long sleeve is that you're trying to look like you're bigger than you actually are. So hopefully he bulked up a little bit, and because he was like, I think 170,
yeah.
165 coming out of college, and that was the big thing with him was, and so you kind of want to see him take the next step, Gilbert.
Well, if you're getting a lot of interceptions, that means quarterbacks are willing to try you, and if they're willing to try you, that means you're not doing well in coverage. So, when that pick occurred for the Commanders and Ron Rivera made that pick, I was really scratching my head. But hey, if the Rams saw there's value there, maybe he's not a first round talent, more he's maybe more of a day two talent, and he's a good ball hawk. Maybe they find the role for him where he's able to be around the ball without relying too much on the coverage because yeah, he's not strong enough to be on the outside. Maybe he's more of an inside guy. We'll see. I am intrigued about that one. I know he was a very late pickup last year. I forget. Uh, but yeah, we'll see how they do with that one.
Yeah, and then the specialist Josh Carty, Ethan Allen, and Alex Ward. Before we go, I wanted to get to the last of these comments. We have DHP. I think he's saying that he's not happy with tight end Davis, Austin Davis on the roster, 3 years and a Tyler Ig injury, and he couldn't become the starter. So,
Yeah, couldn't. Yeah.
yeah, so that might be something. Uh, Jesse Bonilla says 12 days ago, Shula said Paul was playing out of his mind. To now being cut doesn't make much sense. Maybe his injury slowed him down. That's
Mm,
just the way it goes sometimes. I
good
I think
catch,
he's someone
Jesse.
that you can look forward to seeing in the practice squad, but we'll see what happens. It's just that's just the way it is. It's a numbers game, Gilbert.
Yeah, it definitely that's a big factor too. But you don't know. Like I know McVay was asked about Dolak. Maybe he had a very good couple weeks in camp, and sometimes it comes down to that. Like who, like I'm sure they had very lengthy conversations on what to do here. So again, maybe Paul comes through the wire, and then no one's gonna use a spot to pick him up. But hey, he was a fifth round pick. Maybe people see value, like the Emmanuel Forbes signing there. But uh, sometimes you gotta just do the tough decision and hope for the best. And sometimes you become the team that let go of a future Hall of Famer. I'm not saying that's going to happen
Yeah,
with Pool Paul, whatever, Chris Paul Jr. There you go.
yeah,
But it's just the way it is.
yeah. The whole Chris Paul and Pooh Paul kind of throws me
Pool
off,
Paul
but
doesn't roll off the tongue. I don't know if I
it
like that one.
doesn't. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay with
Yes,
being
I
Chris Paul
mean,
Jr. Chris Paul does not
yeah,
play
it's
in the
kind of
league.
like
Is
the
he still
Omar
playing?
Spates thing from last year. Like we, that was our like tongue twister. We're like,
But
but
have you noticed all these players or people who have names of celebrities? They try to have something different, like
yeah,
Michael B. Jordan. That won't work. They added a B
yeah,
there for Michael B. Jordan. Or the one that I don't like is like, is it Josh Allen Hines or Hines Allen? I'm
yeah,
like, it was too late, bro. Just be Josh Allen, the defensive player for the Jaguars. I don't know why you're adding the Hines. And then Chris Paul went with Pooh Paul. And
yeah,
then your draft gem, by the way. Then you have the other guys who have very long names and it's hard to pronounce. So you change your name. Was it Bill Krosky from the Commanders because he had a
yeah.
very long name? So sometimes people got to do what they got to do.
Yep. I mean, just to kind of help out people because they're like, and I've heard where I was trying to remember now, like somebody was like, "Yeah, the people have been saying my name wrong this whole time," and I'm like, "What? Why not just say it in the beginning?" And it's like now we got to change it too. So, hey, it happens. I understand. Sometimes you want to honor
Yeah,
your
that's true.
parents for giving you that name, but hey, like,
It's like me.
y-
My byline's Gilberto, but everybody calls me Gilbert or Gil, and people are always confused. I thought your name was Gilberto or like whatever you want. It's fine.
yeah.
One or the other.
Yep, that's how it happens. So, but I love Jesse hears this, but there's always one player, Jesse. I mean, but reader laugh out loud. Come on, Rams Nation. I have mental breakdown. It's like there's always
Yeah,
a player. I'm telling you, on every team that the fan base is just like really like that player made it over another player and I get it. Hey, you drafted a player, and so you want to make sure that that guy makes your team because that's who you drafted, and that's just the way it goes sometime. And I understand why people get attached to players as well. We've seen it before as well, Gilbert. So, but Gilbert, as we said, this is our last preseason or off-season show. Now the real thing begins next week. Make sure you, as we talked about it, I think we said we're around 270 subs from our compas on the beat one our our channel there, so make sure you like and subscribe on there. We're trying to get to 14K for subs. And yeah, we have the carne asada coming up. So let people know what our schedule is going to be, and then what we got coming up for the carne asada episode and what that is.
Yeah. So first of all, hopefully everybody has a good Labor Day weekend. But once we're back from the holiday weekend, Tuesday on Compas on the Beat, that's our main YouTube channel. So we got Compas on the Beat, and then we got House of Horns below that. It's kind of like the network here, and then we have, if you're a Chargers fan, we have What's Up Bolts. But to start off week 1 in the NFL, Tuesday we have our 5th annual carne asada, and check out all the content on Compas on the Beat because we have all our good friends, and that's what we call it, the carne asada. All our good friends are hanging out. It's hard to get all the interviews in one show, so we decided to
Yep.
spread it out. Like we got Tyler on. By the way, I think that's on. That's already available on Compas on the Beat. Check out the interview with Tyler. We got a good friend Adam Hill who was on live on Monday, but we got the video out already. We have guys like Eric Williams going to jump on. Joe Reedy is lined up. We have some fantasy football guests too. They're going to come on. So check out all the interviews on Compas on the Beat, and then on Tuesday, when everybody's back from the holiday, we're gonna have the four compas get together to make Super Bowl predictions, NFC West predictions, the whole shebang there. And then Wednesday, we'll be back here on House of Horns, and we actually tie in both the House of Horns show on Compas on the Beat. So you're following on Compas on the Beat, you get everything. If you want just strictly Rams, just be locked in on House of Horns. But week 1 episode, Rams versus Texans. It's finally going to be week 1. And then keep it locked in on Compas on the Beat and also House of Horns because we're going to have Gilberto's Hour on Thursday. We're still trying to figure out the timing there, but we're aiming for before Thursday Night Football. So then the week after week 1, we're going to have Lunes Live. So I'm giving everybody the calendar. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, once the football season rolls on, we're going to have plenty of content on Compas on the Beat in House of Horns. So if you enjoy the show here, tell your compas about Compas on the Beat. If you want to keep it strictly Rams, that's fine too. But still tell people about Compas on the Beat because we want to get to 14,000 subscribers there. And here we want to get to 2,000 subscribers. I think we're a little over 1,200. So that is the goal. Hopefully we get that done by Halloween so we can get to 3,000 subscribers on House of Horns.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on the up and up, and we got some new names on here, like your Tocayo here, Gil Garza, who's not happy. He says,
Yeah.
"Nah, McVay's reason for keeping Reader makes no sense from a special team standpoint." So he's basically saying Omar and Landman are the starters, but Dolak and Reader can play both. So, and then Gil just keeps going. He's like, "This is one that's going to come back and bite them in the ass." And then he says, "It depends where Paul goes. That's going to really emphasize this move." So yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people not happy with the Troy Reader being on this initial. Remember, guys, this is just the initial roster. It's gonna change, so there might be you might not see Troy Reader on this team. He might be. It's just I understand why people are upset, but Gilbert, we've been here almost an hour. I said we probably get out of here in 30 minutes, but people have been chiming in. We really love that from Gil Garza, Jesse Bonilla, Willie Bowen, Jesse Bonilla, DHP, Joaquin, as we said already. So, and then we had Daniel Calderon Contreras, Daniel Calderon, and then, of course, Jorge Rodriguez. So, a lot of good people chiming in, which we love. We love getting your feedback, and so I'm sure we'll have people on here that we've missed who are gonna check the replay. So make sure and we're be on the lookout. We're gonna cut some of these segments out, and we'll put them back out there for you guys to watch. In case you don't want to watch the whole episode, we do recommend you watch the whole episodes where we get it. Hey, you got a lot of stuff going on, so we like to kind of cut some shorts out there for you guys to go ahead and check out the content. So we really appreciate everybody checking us out today.
Maybe because we're called the compas, we see a lot of Latino names on here, so that's pretty cool. But everybody's welcome
Yeah.
here. So,
Yep.
Garza Bonilla, Willie Bowen. There you go. I
Yeah.
don't want to butcher Joaquin's last name. Quijada, did I say it right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Quijada, right?
Yep.
But yeah, it's good to see the representation there. Everybody's welcome. But we are trying to grow the Compas on the Beat network. I'm gonna out your race, Vic, but we're both Mexican Americans, so
Yep.
Latino owned. People like to say that, so
Yep.
it's very cool to see the support and the representation in the comments. And Sometimes it's tough when you're thinking you're talking to yourself. Well, not really, because we're talking to each other, but it's
Right.
like, are people watching? And then you have shows like today. It's like, okay, let's keep pushing. People like it.
Yep, and I love it, man. It's been awesome. So, but now we get to the nitty gritty. We get to break down a game. I'm looking forward to it. I love, I really I like what the Texans have done this offseason. So, they're going to be a tough matchup for this Rams team, and I can't wait to break it down with you on Wednesday coming up. But thanks to everybody for checking out the show. We really appreciate the love and support we've been getting lately, and we're back now. I mean,
Yep.
we've had a little bit of a slow off season, just like the Rams, but we're ready to go. So it's great. And here, I'll let you read this comment by Jesse, and then we'll head out, Gilbert.
Shout out to you, Jesse, Raza own. Got to support our own people. Hope you guys grow even bigger. Till next time. Uh, Hands up emoji. Thank you, Jesse Bonilla. Shout out to you. Definitely, we appreciate that. But again, be a compa, tell a compa about compas on the beat and House of Horns. Lock in here because a lot of content's coming up. And I want to say, yeah, year 5, because it's the 5th annual Carne Asada. So year 5 of the network here. So time to get going. On that note, ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.